today to be here with Craig Severinson from Brightworks PR and Marketing, and we're talking about social media selling. So thank you, Craig, for joining us today. Why don't we start out? Tell us a little about you and your background and your business.
Yeah, so I got my start working for big companies, Edelman Public Relations, and then which is a giant international PR firm, and then I actually did public relations for Disneyland, and a resort in Hawaii called Aulani. And after that, I just never felt like, even though I got these great opportunities, never felt like I fit in, and I realized it's because I'm an entrepreneur. So I switched to I used to be a full service PR firm. And as I got into it, I found that I just more and more liked the consulting portion of it. And so now I'm 100% focused on helping people land more clients using organic social media. So Facebook and LinkedIn in particular. And, I have a 90-day program where people come in, we implement these strategies, and they typically make between $30,000 and $100,000 in new revenue during those 90 days. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that is awesome, and certainly social selling is the buzz around. It's one of the marketing tools that a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners want to utilize.
Yeah,
Tell me what people are doing wrong or incorrectly when it comes to social media selling, because when I talk to a lot of business owners, there's a lot of frustration when it comes to social media and really utilizing social media in a way that brings results. Bottom line results to your business.
Yeah, and I think that there's, two things in particular that you want to think about. One is that social media is a new platform or a new tool to express old marketing principles. So like I find that a lot of the problems you have with social media go away when you start realizing it's almost like networking for the digital age. When you treat it like a networking event, you're never going to go to a networking event, go shake someone's hand, say, hey, buy my stuff. Like, it's just, you're not going to do that. You know what I mean? And so if you start thinking about social media that same way, where like, how would you treat this person if you were face to face? A lot of the awkwardness about it, a lot of the frustration about it starts to kind of melt away. And then the other thing is, the flip side of that is also, I feel like we have this idea that social media is supposed to be kind of like this spray and pray type of platform where it's like, I'm going to do a bunch of content, or I'm going to create my page, and then suddenly people are just going to want to come talk to me. And that's not the case either. It's funny, especially with LinkedIn. People will be like, well, have you tried LinkedIn? They'll say, well, I created a profile, but no one's ever reached out to me. It's like, okay, you got to do more than just create a profile. So it's a mixture between actually being really active with great content. It's actually taking a little bit of control and initiative, stepping outside of your comfort zone to actually talk to people, just like you would at a networking event. And then that's really what you've got to be doing. So what people are doing wrong would be, number one, they're trying to sell right out the gate. They're coming in, they're saying, hey, buy my stuff. The people that do that are the sleazy, slimy, that's what everyone's complaining about, right? Number two is they're inconsistent. They start and then they start and then they stop. You gotta really stick with it for a while. And then number three, and this sounds a little bit kind of contradictory, but they're actually not bold enough. When I treat it like a networking event, suddenly they don't want to make an offer at all. Well, you got to make an offer. So it's a balance between not selling right out the gate, but also being bold and talking about what you do.
Yeah. Well, what are some things that businesses can do to get started? I mean, if you're not fully engaged in social selling right now, what are some things people can do to get started right away?
I think first of all, trying to see how social selling fit into what you're already doing. So if you're already doing some sort of sales marketing efforts, which everyone hopefully is, your social media can be another way to engage the people that you're already talking with. So let's say you do, networking is on my mind. So let's say you go to a networking event and you meet somebody. Well, you could go home or to your office and then connect with them on LinkedIn and start engaging with them on LinkedIn, right? Like that's a great way. You just loop it into what you're already doing. But social media, in particular, Facebook and LinkedIn, have a lot of potential to stand on their own legs. And so I have what I call the 4 C's of, I call my approach SMEDO, which I always say silly name, serious results, right? SMEDO stands for social media direct outreach. And by the way, when you say SMEDO, you got to do it like this, guys. SMEDO! Like you got to yell it. You got to have some fun with it. So there's 4 C's to this, right? And the C's are just for, because I like things that match, right? So first is connecting. You've got to make sure you're connecting with the right people. If you want this to stand on its own legs, right? Make connecting with the right people. Number two, having conversations. So it's not just about collecting people, it's connecting with somebody who's a good fit for your services and then actually having a real human to human conversation. And then number three, make sure you're doing valuable content. So what is valuable content? It's not necessarily like how-to content. You want someone to hire you for the how-to. What they're really looking for you from you is inspiration and strategy. So you kind of want to have that higher level conversation in your content of like, what is the strategy? Why do we do what we do? And why is it better than, the competition? You don't necessarily have to call out your competition, but you have to you're trying to indoctrinate them into your way of thinking, your way of doing things. And then the third piece is conversion. And it's conversion for the C, but it really should be invitation. Because what you need to be doing is in your conversation, say, hey, I actually do X thing. Are you interested in that? Can we explore it? Can we talk about it? You have that invitation and then they give you permission. And now suddenly you can go into full on sales mode, right? Because now you have the permission to talk to them about it.
Yeah, I love that. And can you give me some examples of companies, and you don't have to give company names or anything like that, but examples of how companies have utilized that approach and really gotten some benefit out of it?
Yeah, and I guess that's a really great question because key to this approach is that you are selling something that is, I would call premium price, right? So premium price would be different for each industry, but let's say it's, at least, $2,000 and above, right? And the reason why is because if you're selling something less than that, you could actually use a landing page approach where it's like you're driving people to a landing page. And at $2,000, depending on what you're selling, I'm getting into the weeds here, but like you could even push that up to $3,000. They'll buy it off of a sales page. You don't need as much. You don't need as much time to talk to them. So,
Right.
The type of business that's really going to thrive with this type of approach is selling something that it's going to make a difference to their bottom line. They're selling something maybe between $5,000 and $10,000 per customer, and it works really, really well for B2B, for service providers. LinkedIn is killer for B2B. As long as that price point is a little higher, though, this will work for whatever industry.
I love it. Well, you mentioned that it's all about relationships, even with LinkedIn, Facebook, social media. So tell me about creating those relationships with your ideal prospects, because that's really who we all want to create those relationships with, are those prospects.
Yeah, and I think again, this is a question you get all the time. And if you think of it about, I'm gonna compare it to a networking event, right? Like, how do you build a relationship in person? You can do the same thing on social media. There's some nuances though, because you're not like when you're in front of somebody looking them in the eye and you're like, hey, how are you? They're going to respond. Versus, you're on Facebook or LinkedIn and you're in the inbox, hey, how are you? They may or may not respond, right? So there's some nuances where maybe you have to be a little bit more persistent. But the thing that I always say to my clients is, how would you respond if you were in person? Like, how would you build a relationship if you were standing right in front of them? And when you ask yourself that question, your brain's really good at bringing those answers in. But I mean, in general terms, the conversations are really key, and your content is really key. When if they're not responding to messages, but you've got a piece of content that really resonates, they'll then respond to your conversation. And then just strategically speak from their point of view. I feel like lots of times, especially in our messages, we're like, hey, this is me, aren't I so cool? Look at all the stuff I've accomplished. And if you've ever been with somebody who only talks about themselves, it's really boring and annoying, right? So it's like you want to make sure you come in there, and this is marketing 101, right? Instead of being like, hey, this is me, I'm so cool, you got to be like, hey, I looked at your profile, I saw what you're doing, what tell me about this thing that you're working on. And that'll open the doors for you a lot quicker than talking about yourself.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about strategy too, because there's the old story of the two neighbors who were both building decks in their house, right? And the one neighbor goes to the hardware store and he's going to get the shiny tools because he hears the great thing about this tool or that tool. He brings home the great tool. And then the other neighbor who decides he's going to come up with this whole plan and figure out exactly what he needs and what the exact size drill bit he needs. And then he's going to go to the hardware store and pick the exact tool he needs, come back because he knows the exact size hole he needs because he's got this plan, and so and I think the same thing goes with marketing. A lot of folks don't have a plan. They go to the store and they look at their marketing tools, and they pick out what they think their friends are using or other businesses are using, and yet there's no strategy behind it, and they bring it home, and they're not sure how it fits in the overall scheme of things. So what are some of the things business owners need to keep in mind when they think about their marketing strategy?
Yeah, I love that, and I think really what you're getting down to is something we don't really consider is how interconnected all of our business is, from the marketing to the sales to the service delivery. You know, all of that is so connected, and it's really interesting. Even the way you set up your you package your services or your product and market it affects the way that your client's going to use it. And so I think the thing that you really want to step back and look at is, first of all, what is your business model in terms of how much are you charging? How are you presenting that? What is the ultimate result that you provide, right? Like really looking at what is that model. And especially, you know, we talked about raising that rate up. You really want something, if you're using this process, you want something that's gonna, one package or one type of thing you're selling is going to be able to get you to like $250,000, $300,000 in your business. You know, once you get to that level, you can start thinking about different packages or adjusting your business model. But for most people who are still, you know, trying to get that mid six figures range, they're going to want to stick with one scalable package, one main offer, one premium price, one thing. And then after that, you know, mastering your marketing. You know, you mentioned it's almost, that story you told is almost like this shiny object syndrome, right? Where it's like, today I'm on Facebook, tomorrow I'm LinkedIn, tomorrow I'm networking,
right.
The next day, you know, and it's just like you keep switching. I always say choose three marketing tactics that you really like. And instead of trying to go really wide with all these marketing tactics, it's like digging a well. You're never going to hit water if you're like digging a million different holes. You want to dig one deep hole. And once you hit that spring, you know, I'm from Warrenton, so I grew up with well water. You know, you hit that,
right.
that spring, and it's gonna give you water for generations. You know, so it's like you've got to get your marketing really mastered. So whether or not you want to do social selling, you know, that's a different conversation. You got to find the ones that work for you and master them. And then the third piece is your sales process. You know, what are you doing not only to convert people, but to set them up for success? Right. So, you know, they go through, you got your package, they go through your marketing, they're sold into it. And then it's like, okay, what are the expectations or what are the things that really set them up so that get in their success stories, not just clients?
Yeah, I think it's a great point. Well, tell me about the Accelerator Program, how it works. It sounds like that would be an interesting program for businesses to get involved in.
Yeah, totally. And this is really good timing. I only do this year we did 5, but we typically do 4 every year, and the next one is starting on Thursday. So this is like super good timing. That would be the September 3rd, I believe. The way that works is, you know, we help you. I help you implement what we just talked about. So we're going to create a scalable package. We're going to master social selling, and we're going to use a value-centered sales process. And the way it works is you have a one-on-one call with. I always say that one-on-one call is going to put you ahead 2 years. Because what we do in 2 hours, most people take 2 years to figure out, and that is get your pricing down and get a package that clients actually crave, and then set a business model so that your business can get to, you know, whatever that next level looks like to you. Typically, in 90 days using social selling, depending on what you're selling, you can expect that you can land, doing this on your own, you can land about a client a week. So let's say you land 9 clients in about 12 weeks. You know, if you're selling $5,000 to $10,000, that's like $100,000 more to your
right.
So
yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so we get that down, and then for 12 weeks, we basically implement this process. You know, we do it; it's a group thing. We do it together, but we're implementing that process so you get clients.
Well, cool. Now, is that a digital thing, or are you doing that face to face? How does that work?
Yeah, it's like it is face to face, but it's face to face how we're doing it right now.
Yeah, right. Today's face to face, right?
Yeah, digitally face to face. Yeah, exactly.
Well, cool. Well, tell us how we can get in contact with Brightworks PR and marketing.
Yeah, so I actually, between the time that I applied to be a speaker for you, Ron, and now I've actually rebranded. So we're not Brightworks PR and marketing anymore.
Okay.
We're Brightworks Training, which I mean, it's brand new. So no worries. And so you can go to brightworkstraining.com. That's a great place. You can find me, Craig Severinson, on Facebook or LinkedIn. I'm very accessible on both those places. I even have a free Facebook group. That's probably the best place to go. Go to the Facebook group and get involved. We just a week-long experience training that is also up and live until Thursday. So if you want some like really in-depth training on your packaging, pricing, or selling, or any of the stuff we talked about today, go check that out. The group is called Rapid Revenue Acceleration.
Oh, fantastic. And my last question is, where do you think marketing is headed? I mean, where are we headed in the future with marketing?
I think if you look at the past to look at the future, it's really the same principles that just get recycled in different platforms. Like it used to be face to face, then it was like meetings, then it was cold calling, and then it was networking, and it's all kind of the same principles that get recycled. So where are we headed? I'm not sure, because I don't know what the next platforms are going to look like. I think, but I do think the increase of digital touch is going to be important, and I also think that the importance of physical in-person meetings was really demonstrated this year. So I think that while we had a big shift to digital during this year, I think you're going to see a nice big shift next year. Then maybe it'll land somewhere in the middle, but I think we'll see a shift back to, man, I really just want to touch somebody. Like I want to shake a hand. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think we'll see a little bit of that in the near future.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, we're used to building relationships one-on-one and face-to-face. So I can certainly see that happening. Well, I want to thank you again for joining us today and sharing some of your thoughts on social media selling. And I'm sure our folks will get in touch with you, and they'll continue to have you help them build their revenue base with social media. So thank you very much.